Jay from Team DMA at it again with another video. This video is going to be just regarding the overall negations and interruptions on the board, making it really easy with the AC130. This is the updated version, the 2024, which has all the updates to be covering like the evenly matched, the ash blossom, the just everything, the draw. It covers just so many different different cards, like even the shifter, the barrier, like not being able to access your extra deck and all that during your opponent's turn, and also going first, the speed, because as you already know, or you should know, if you're someone who is competitive, like you play at your locals, it's like a casual thing to you, you know, because a lot of people have never played competitively. But if you do, you already know going first is like the day and going second is like the night. They're two different worlds. You know, going second, you're attempting to break your board or stop your opponent, and then going first, all you're trying to do is draw and establish a crazy board with a lot of negations. And a lot of people have asked me, like in the past, like, you know what, my opponent always sides for me and they're ready. And I want to show you an example. So this guy's undefeated. I have a lot more duels. I have like 30-40 other duels that I want to show you guys, but this one is specifically on the negations and having your opponent doing a lot of crazy stuff against you. I believe it's a remove from play kashtira, which is like very popular ever since the ban list hit the last ban list that we had, which was a few months ago. And basically they're just siding their deck more on the side of remove from play, you know. They're just hitting you with everything's getting removed, what goes in the graveyard, sometimes on the board, because that's all it is. All their effects banished from your deck, from the graveyard, from the field. It's pretty nasty. And if you let them set up, they can set up a lot of interruptions, like 4 or 5, and then they hit you with evenly match on top of everything. You're basically done. So this guy's undefeated, and he challenged me. It was more like I challenged him, and he was letting me know because he beat a few Dark Magician turbos, and I saw his duels. I saw like 6 singles, and he went undefeated. He beat a Dark Magician and a few other powerful decks, like top tier style. And he's obviously very competitive, very strong, and you're gonna get to see the gameplay here. And I want to showcase what's going on, sequence and everything, so that you can see what the heck to do. So first of all, here we're gonna go ahead and start. We're gonna go ahead and hit the rod. We're gonna go into the circle. So there is a reason to all this madness. We're just trying to draw, set up a bunch of negates and interruptions, possibly like 5, you know. You always want to start at 3, the minimum, and you want to work your way up. For me, this deck does 10 to 12 on my opponent, but I believe on this one I do about 5. I do a few negations and the rest are interruptions, but it all equals like 5. Every other turn, starting from there, is going to be increasing till we hit 10 to 12. Rod, circle, servant, salvation, activate. At this point, you've already had a card there. You started with 5, and since he didn't have any hand traps, you're just gonna go all out at this point. Souls, documentation to the graveyard. Souls, activate effect. We're gonna draw both of them, and the reason for that was because we're gonna try to go deep in the deck. Some of the cards in our decks are at 3s, so it gives you good consistency of drawing them. So you can have a bunch of negations on the board. And we're gonna go ahead and link because we're preparing for the Bestial. Crawley. We're gonna stack the servant. Go ahead and draw, activate, draw again. So at this point, this is all the cards we have. So you should already know the bribe is utilized to stop just a few cards like 3. And all the cards that I'm talking about are basically either back row destruction or removal, either or. Everything else he plays, we can let it all go. I don't really care at all, not even a little bit. And then, because people are gonna argue and say, you're dumb, why'd you send Super Poly? But you're gonna see right now, because Super Poly is good, but sometimes not if if you don't have a board already, your opponent doesn't have a board because you don't know what he's making, you might not be able to enter into your fusions through poly. If you play competitive like me, like you start playing against the nationals or undefeated decks, you know what I'm talking about. Poly doesn't really hit everything, even though people love to lie. Like people who say Dragoon always wins, that those are all lies. The reality is the Dragoon loses, and so does the Super Poly. Sometimes there isn't a target, so I'm not willing to take that risk. So we're gonna take a look at the graveyard, and this is what's there, and then we're gonna move forward from there. So he starts off off the bat with the feather. So at this point, most of the Dark Magician community lost, and as you already know, some of the famous YouTubers say they hate feather, they hate storm, they hate all of those cards. And the real truth is, remember what I taught you guys. When you hear someone use the word hate, that's a key word for they suck because they lose to that card. It doesn't really mean they hate the card, it just means they can't beat it. That's why they use that word. They adopt the word hate. That is definitely a sign that they suck. Like, I love all the cards. All of the cards, because none of them do nothing. So I love them all. But if there was cards that would beat me, then I would hate them too. But because I know how to handle it, I'm going to be alright. So people are going to argue and say, hey, Bribe's going to let them draw again. You're missing the point. You're controlling the whole freaking field. The only thing that you're watching out for is the back row removal because you don't have the Dragoon yet. You don't have the Naruto. You don't have that Solemn, or you don't have the right hand or the village, because you don't always draw every card that you want every time. That's a real lie. So sometimes you need variety to find your way to do the same effect, which is negating the back row destruction. That's the whole point of this video. So we take a negate, he draws, he activates the what is it, the continuous spell, and you can read here. So you can normal summon them without tributing. And then he can special summon. So if you play a spell while he has a kashtira, he's going to be banishing some cards from the graveyard. It's a pretty broken card. People are scared of it. So we're going to banish it. He triggers another one, triggers an effect. We're going to chain, activate. We're going to go into the Dragoon from here. So obviously the reason why we're going to go into Dragoon at this point is definitely because if you know anything about the kashtira, these are first place national decks, in case you didn't know. It's very commonly known. They go undefeated. People are scared of this deck. If you go to certain channels, pretty much everyone that plays Dark Magician, they don't have any duels with this deck. Why? Because they can't beat it, especially going second or going first. It's too much for them. I mean, show me a channel that has Shifter in the beginning and survives it with the Dark Magician deck. There is none. Probably only my channel, and I'm not tooting my own horn or being arrogant or rude. I'm just telling you the truth. If I'm wrong, show me a video where you play Dark Magician and you survive a Shifter, an Ash, and a Draw, and Dimension Barrier all in the same turn, because I have, and it doesn't affect me. It doesn't do anything to me. So from there, he's gonna be following up with the effect, and we're gonna chain, pop, chain, negate, and to be honest with you, we still had more negations on the board. So we're gonna go back right there real quick, and then after that I'll just let it play through and the video will end. So here we go. Okay, negation number 1. And then an interruption number 1. Interruption number 3. And I don't know if you want to count it in the graveyard for 4. We got the Dragoon, that's 5. And then there's 6. There's another 6th one on the bottom. You haven't seen it. If you don't want to count the special summon, then that would technically be a lie, because if they're gonna OTK you, you can chain the Bestial to banish. So I didn't count the banish, even though it is an interruption, but I didn't count it. But you do count the special, because they're gonna OTK you with like 3,000. and then you chain the bestial on the fence, it's an interruption because it'll run into the bestial and it'll pop it. So it is an interruption. It's two actually, because it can block the attack and pop it. So we have about six. We had a few negations and a few interruptions, but all in all, it's about six. If you don't believe me, take a look. And the grave of the super ancient organism counts for two. It's like the skill drain. It basically does the same thing, but for level 6 or higher. And for the most part, this tier 1 and tier 0 style, they play level 6 and higher. So it hits every time, like 95% of the time, because that's all they play, level 6 and higher. So at that point, he's dealing with about, what is it, like 3 negations, 3 interruptions. So we draw. He's basically left with nothing. You see the remove from play here, and then the cards. We stopped everything he played. We stopped 3, and then we stopped 4 on the top, and we can still stop 2 more. But he ran out of cards to play. So we draw into the apprentice. We're gonna go ahead and hit, chain, dark magic attack to the hand. So you might be wondering like why? Because after you finish your battle phase, he has evenly matched. If you know anything about kashtira, they play 3 evenly matched. If you don't know that, then it probably means you don't know Yu-Gi-Oh! But he has evenly matched face down. I've seen him play 3. I've seen him play 2 against another player. He played once against another one. And I think one of his last duels that I saw, he got a chance to play all 3 of them. He played all 3. And that's why he was undefeated. And I know this deck already. Like, to me, it is nothing. It's trash. Even though it's undefeated, even though it's a scary deck, people are afraid of it. To me, it's just trash. I already know the evenly matches in the back. And that's the reason why I ended the battle phase and I kept all the cards in my hand. You don't want to trigger the effect of Dragoon too early or play cards to where you don't have a negate in your hand, because Dragoon won't trigger, remember? And you'll be fried, you'll lose. So what I did was I went ahead and I did battle phase and then I ended it. If he didn't trigger evenly, that there was no need to discard. So after that, I triggered Eternal to get Dark Magic Attack, because at that point, the discard material comes in clutch to trigger the Apprentice. And you might be wondering why. Because he banished the Dark Magician, right? Here are the cards he banished. So he banished all of these cards. That's a lot of cards to be banishing. And this deck just banishes more and more and more and more and more. Kind of similar to the rune deck. They're just banishing everything. But we're not affected by any of that, right? So we're gonna get the Dark Magician. So we're live again with the Omni Negate, and then to top it off, we have the effect of Circle Internal. We're getting discarded, and then on the bottom, like I was saying, I have the 2 negates. It does more. It can do more because it has 5. You negate all 5, but we're set. And then you're going to follow up in a specific sequence. So here's the sequence. So he has 4 cards. He has 4 cards, and we need to negate all 4. So if we don't negate them, we can at least interrupt them all of them. We're gonna trigger the effect, and then we're gonna go ahead and directly banish. It's gonna trigger the effect of his Rice Heart, and from there we're gonna banish it, triggering the effect of Rod, because we need the Omni Negate and we need the banish. So at this point, he's gonna go ahead and draw, and there's no need to Omni Negate, because once he plays this card, he cannot special, he can only normal. And at the point, there's nothing he can normal that's going to beat us. He's gonna try to go into the Necro phase, but at this point, it won't work because the duality is already active and he can't special. But I mean, even if he could special, it wouldn't work because I could just Omni Negate with the Dragoon. And then we still have the negations face down with the what is it called, the grave. And we're gonna be banishing. We got him in the loop, and basically after that we're gonna be drawing like the village. We're gonna be drawing the skill drain. We're gonna be drawing the right hand. We're gonna be bringing Dragonite, Naruto. Like the negations and interruptions are going to double. If we had 4, now there's 8. Whatever number we have, there's gonna be increasing each turn. And we already won the duel, but you always want to practice increasing it because a lot of people sometimes can't finish their opponent. Like they have 100 life points and then you end up losing after, and you're like, crap, all I needed to do was waste another 100 life points. And that's why I created this profile. If your opponent has 100 life points left, you don't need to worry because you can negate everything he plays. There is no card that exists that can help him. Kaijus won't help him. Nothing will help him. Evenly matched won't help him. Nothing he has can help him. At the point, he's gone, just like everybody else. And I know people hate that on my channel. I always get a lot of backlash and hate. They say, why don't you ever do matches and blah, 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 blah. And I tell you guys, why don't you cry, like crybaby that you are, why don't you cry and complain to them? They're the cowards that are leaving, not me. It's not my fault. It's their fault. They're the ones running away. It's kind of like you see a boxing match and then the champion wins and then you want to blame the champion. Like, hey man, you need to blame the other guy because if you wanted the other guy to win, that's his fault, not the champion. And that's pretty much it. You saw the sequence. You can rewind it and watch it again. It's very violent. This deck is at the bottom of the rogue. There's nothing underneath it. If you think I'm lying, I'll show you the profile because I already showed it before, I believe. And there is no broken cards. It has none. There's no evenly matched, no hand traps. I don't even have synchros. We don't have kaijus. We don't have lightning storm. We don't have Dark Ruler no more. Any card that will help you win is not in the deck. It's just a hyper super budget deck. It's like a $80 Dark Magician deck, especially with Illusion of Chaos going down in price. It's very, very, very violent. I've had turns, I'll show you guys in the future, where I had 6 negations on the board from the beginning. And sometimes we go through like Ash Blossom, we go through the Veiler, the Infinite Impermanence, the Droll. There's so many wild, crazy cards, the Kaijus, and nothing that they do affects us. The Lightning Storm are just wasting our time. And that's the AC 130 for you. And this is the profile that you're going to be playing GoldenEye. And I took out the Epidemic, Eradicator Epidemic Virus to put other negations, because the main problem is protecting your backboard. So you have about 5 or 6 cards that protect the back. So they're going to have to play 6 cards and you're going to negate them all. So they're going to have 7. And there's other cards that you can include into it to make it even more to where they won't be touching the back at all. And the deck does play Village. So at the end, like I said, you have somewhere around 12 negates on the board is what you have with this deck. And this isn't something new. This is since 2019. All it had was a few updates like the Bestial. Everything else is exactly the same. It's super broken, super nasty. These kashtira decks are undefeated. Broken decks become trash. This isn't the only deck that I do it to. I do it to all the nationals, every deck that exists. That's pretty much it. Hopefully you liked the video. If you have any questions or concerns, let me know. Good luck to you at your locals. I know your deck is almost finished GoldenEye. And catch you guys on the next one. God bless, take care, and dark magic attack.